Good. So this is Shiur in Sefer Tanya, and at the moment we are holding in Perek Gimel on Omud 14 of the printed Sefer, approaching the middle of the Omud, or a little bit before that. And today is Tuesday afternoon or Tuesday evening, Oyer li Tub Bishvat, Tovshin Ayin Beis. All right, so we saw the Seder of how the Midas are born out from the usage of the Moyach. We saw that was in two Eifanim. The first of all, there was the Eifen of the appearance of Chokhmah, which is we saw the lightning flash which is born into the mind in a general way, or from the mind in a general way, to the awareness of the Adam, and then he develops on that and brings it out from the state of potentiality and withdrawnness for the moment. He brings it into the Koyach Habina, where he's mizbeinen or ma'amik, and he deepens his mind me'oid b'geduras Hashem. And we saw that what is the content of such a isbonus and such a deep reflection and busyness of the moichin to give rise to the midas. Or that is how the Eibishter, he's mizbeinen, he reflects and deepens his mind in how the Eibishter fills up all the worlds, mamale kol almin, that the Eibishter appears and enters, as it were, in a limited or drawn fashion into each created being, and that means, in a general way, all of the worlds and all the created worlds, and he enters them like a oyer enters a vessel, and that's mamale kol almin. Meaning how Elikus fills up like a vessel, like a kli is filled up by its liquid or by whatever is placed inside it, and unites with that and identifies with its particular level and is appropriate to its particular level. That's mamali kol almin. The next madrega in elevation was seivei kol almin. We saw that meant transcendency, seive meaning surrounding or transcendent to the divine light, which is more essential to Hashem than mamalik almin, less limited and reduced, but a more direct gilui of Elikus, and therefore it's too great and too transcendent to enter the worlds, and therefore it remains in an even of makif, as we call it in the Chassidic language, surrounding and not in a state of entrance, hislabshus. Now, that seviv, however, doesn't mean it's just around like some sort of outer circumference outside all the worlds. No, seviv means that really is present in everything. Hashem is present everywhere, and He is really everything. And therefore, seviv means that it's not, as we said, appreciated, understood, and it's not according to the level of the Nivra, but it's beyond him and transcendent to him, and that's what's called Sevev. In other words, it's not something he can grasp or understand, but he can sense that it's there. It's brought down in other places and cities that even though it's beyond his hasaga, his ability to understand and appreciate, but he can be aware that that is there, and he can sense it. And maybe even on somebody's a very devoted server of Hashem, he can feel the other server and have some sort of emotional connection with it. But basically, it's too high and beyond sovev.
Is it subject to histashulus? Is it subject to Tzimtzum and histashulus?
No. Tzimtzum is in mamalik kolam. All the eras after the Tzimtzum Harishon have all undergone Tzimtzum.
So
but the union of the Sefer Kolam is not, it's only undergone the first original Tzimtzum.
Why doesn't it scramble everything, and why doesn't it just, why does this power not scramble everything and turn it in bittul?
Why is it no what?
Why doesn't it make everything bittul, just nullify everything?
Why doesn't it just nullify everything? Well, that's what I was attempting to point out, I was going to point out, that it's soive, but it's soive kol almin. In other words, it does have some reference to the world, even though it's completely transcendent to them and beyond them and surrounds them in the sense that it doesn't enter them by understanding and islabshus, but it's still got something to do with the oilamus. On the contrary, the genuine chayus and the genuine life force of the world really comes from there, from that level, and therefore the whole oilam is batel, subservient and completely subservient and nullified legavi that madrega, but it still has a certain reference to the world. In other words, it's a essential level, but the Eibishter brought it about in a way that it would have to do and some reference to the world. Therefore, it's called Soivev Kol Almin. So it's also Mitzumtzum. Like I said, the Tzimtzum Arishan and the very early Tzimtzumim, they also have an effect on the Soivev Kol Almin. But after that, he remains beyond and around, as it were, all the world.
But the bottom line is, this is a mystery, isn't it?
Is it a mitzvah?
No, the bottom line is, this is a mystery.
It's a mystery. Yeah, I mean, it's beyond our ability to understand it, yeah. It's not something which we can be masig, but like I said earlier, we can appreciate and feel, even to a certain extent, be as sensitive to its presence. Then we step up to a higher madrega and we go beyond the inyan of Seiv, and then we reach a level which would fit in with what you were bothered about at the beginning, and that is the next level is v'chula kamei kaloi chashivei, that everything in front of him is absolutely like the nothing. Kaloi chashivi is reckoned as if it were nothing. In other words, that this is already the atzmus of Hashem in a general way, or the atzmus ha'oya, the very essentialness of his life, probably more correctly, which is beyond any reference to the. It's not called kule legabi almin or anything like that, but kule kale chashivi means all the oilamas, any entity which has come about or is part of the whole system of worlds is completely like nothing, like Abidut. So Yivev, as we pointed out, is Kol Almin, and everything's bottled like Abi Seva. But to a certain extent, its whole purpose is Davkid to give rise to the creation. Kula Kamei Kaloi Chashivi means how the whole creation is like the whole, with all the elements and with everything, are just like a drop in the ocean, like Abiyat. They're all of no worth whatsoever, and they're all completely equal in that bittul. They're completely and utterly all the same level when it comes to that level. In other words, you can't say, like Avidat, that Eilam HaTzilus is higher than Eilam HaBriya or than Eilam HaYitzir V'Asiyah. They're all completely nothing and bottle and equal. If they're like that, like Abi Sevev to a certain extent, then like Avidat level of Kula Kamei, Kalei Chashivei, for sure, they're like that. So that's like three main states in how you can appreciate the greatness of Hashem. The first one is Mamale. It's also Elakus. It's not a created being, Chas v'Shalom or anything, but it's already how it relates somewhat to the created being. So you've beyond, and yet nonetheless somehow related to the being, to the created beings. Kula Kamei Chaloi Chashivei, absolute transcendence of Elakus, which makes everything like the nothing. Kaloi chashiva. Yeah. So when a person is mizboinen, kusha mizboinen umamik, when he goes very deeply in his bina, in those three levels, each person according to his level of understanding and what he's capable of understanding, what he's gifted sufficiently to understand, then what happens? He says the Rebbe Noel Do, the Nisayrero Midas Yiras Haroimamus B'moichei. Then what begins with such a person is that becomes born and aroused or woken up. Neseder is from the word li'orer. Li'orer means to wake up and to prompt something into consciousness. Nisoirero is a passive form of the verb. It becomes aroused and becomes. Midas yiras arima, the midah, the tray, emotional tray, we might call it, of yiras ha-remas, the awe and the fear of the unbelievable laudatedness and elevation of Ekus. Now, that becomes where? Born and aroused b'moichoi, in his brain, umachshavtoi, in his thoughts. In other words, moiche means in his gimel powers of the moyach, chokmah, bina, v'das. Machshavtoi means the levush, what's called the oisias of the machshava, what they call levush. Machshava, we'll talk about that further in Perek Daled. And what does that bring him to? What is the poil and the activity of that midah? Liro, to fear and to have awe, we might say more correctly, ule his boishesh, and to feel his own shame, his own unworthiness in a very deep way, his boshesh, to be ashamed of yourself and completely and utterly disgusted by your own self, almost repelled by the fact that you're the way you are. Liro lisboish migidulosa yisborach she'ein la soif v'tachlis, knowing as he does through the hisbonenus that the greatness of Hashem has no end and no tachlis, no finality, it sort of never reaches any final point, or it doesn't really have any aim, as you might say. There's another usage. The word tachlis can mean like an aim or an ultimate goal. It's just so great that it's beyond any of our concepts of reality. So when a person is aware of that, then says the Alter Rebbe, is born in his brain a midah of awe for Hashem. Now we'll soon talk about that in a minute. And then he says, upachad Hashem beliboy, together with that birth and arousal of this tray of complete loss of his own self, to the point that he feels like some disgusting worm in front of, as it were, Hashem. He's misboishesh completely from the greatness of Hashem. Then, following that, pachad Hashem beliboy, then he feels what we would understand more to be fear, which is pachad, meaning shrek in Yiddish, dread in English, or fear in the simple, basic sense of you being afraid for your own materials and your own, and you're full of this tremendous fear and dread that you shouldn't in any way impinge on the greatness of Hashem. So now, you do a very famous question, I think we answered at the end of the last class. We'll come to it in a minute. I need just to read a little further, and we should get onto the whole thing more. And that was automatically followed and paralleled and backed by in his heart. Now this pachad, this fear, afraidness for your own self in reference to Hashem, and this what you might call normal, in inverted commas, sense of the word fear, well, that is shot to the heart. That's tafki, that he feels that precisely in his heart. This other yira that we called yira, not pachad, we called it yiras Hashem be'moiche. We said that was in the brain, and now we say v'shuv, and after that, following all this, shuv means and furthermore, and in following up on all that, v'shuv yislahav liboy, his heart will become inflamed. Lahav is the word for flame. Yislahav means inflamed and stirred in a fiery and tremendously burning love. Shuv yislav liboy bi'avo azor, with a tremendously powerful love, and almost like a burning love, or az means something very, very powerful, and not reckoning with any criticism or anything like that. Somebody who's on az ponim, for example, is not a particularly complimentary way of referring to him, and he's very brazen, he doesn't care what steps in his way. And therefore, this is an ava which sweeps all before it, a burning and almost like brazen love. Karish peyesh, like the embers of fire. That's based on a pasuk in Shir Hashirim, where it's brought down that Rish Ofeha, Rish peyesh, shall hivas yudke, that the soul, which is called like the flame of Hashem, yudke is the Eibishter, as its way of expressing itself is in burning embers. A flame, it makes like sparks that come out from embers that flame and express themselves in a restless fashion. Karish peyesh, b'chasheka, b'chafetza, b'chuka, b'nefesh ekeka, legedulas ein tzei. So he says that you feel such a ava with all these embers of fire that you have chasheka, means yearning and longing. Chafetza means a deep inner desire for. Chafetza is from the word chofetz, which means pnimis harotzon, and so that's the inner power of the will. Chafetza, but chuka means like a missing and longing for something that you've tasted, and once you've tasted, you're longing for it and yearning. And in Yiddish, shreben means to sort of go for it and all the time be longing for it. It's lacking you in the most terrible way. But chuka, but nefesh shoykeka, and a thirsty soul, what you call it, an unquenchable feeling that the whole soul is thirsting, literally, and unquenched, legdulus ein tzei, to the greatness of Hashem. And now he writes, Vehi kleis hanevesh, and that is the expiry of the soul. Now that's a very powerful expression. When you say kleis hanevesh, you imply that somebody's he's just going out. In English, you say to go out, just to completely, as it were, lose yourself altogether. It's almost like the passing out of the soul, or what you might call its expiry, like it sort of finishes and passes from the body altogether. And that's called kleis hanevesh, which in Yiddish it's called oisgang. What oisgang means, like going out just completely and losing all connection with the normal dwelling place of the soul, which is the body and everyday life. That's kleis hanevesh. Now, we may be permitted to say that that's a very high level. It's a very high madrega, that the ahava has reached a point where it's no longer reckoning with anything. And that's hidden in the word azor that we began with. Ahava azor, like a brazen and a very, very unreckoning form of ahava, which goes through these different nouns that we saw, chasheka, chafetz, and chuka. Also, they seem to be like steps upward in the building up of the enthusiasm and the yearningness of the love. And then he said it's all based on Gedula Saint Baruch, just like the Yira was, but he said it brings to the going out of the soul, kleis hanevesh, altogether, kiddik siv, and he brings 3 pasukim, as it is written, nixofor v'gam kolso nafshi, that my soul has nixofor. Nixofor is from the word liksoif. What liksoif is the root word for the word kesef. What kesef means silver. And what is silver? Silver is something that produces an immediate reaction of desire and impression to be drawn to that on the part of the person. And therefore, nixofor is like a longing and a drawing to. Nix or v'gam kolso. Not only my soul has been drawn, but it's also reached a state of like expiry, kolsa. Nixofor v'gam kolso. Then he says, uksiv tzoma nafshi lelakim. Aware of that pasuk, the niggin, the Chabad niggin on that pasuk. Tzoma nafshi lelakim. My soul is thirsty and feels thirst to Elokim, or Elokim referring to divinity in general. Uksiv tzoma licho nafshi. That's only the beginning of the famous niggin. Tzoma licho nafshi. To you and your very soul, my whole soul is gone out in thirst. Tzoma licho nafshi. So we see here that these verses all seem to express the concept of thirst. So then says the Alter Rebbe, Tzimoyin, this concept of thirst, he miyisod ha'eish shebenefesh elokis. Well, that's from the element of fire that there is in the divine soul. In other words, all these levels of Ava, which all express themselves in a restless burning and a restless longing and going out, complete expiry to Elikus, they're all from the fire of the Nefesh Elokis. Now there may be other three elements also in the Nefesh Elokis, but this is the fire, the inyan of Eish. Now, the sentence goes further, but I think we need to pause for a few minutes here and try to sort out what have we expressed and where are we going and what is happening. I mean, this type of Ava, what the Alter Rebbe describes here, is a very powerful description of love for Hashem. It's really to a point where a person just, is at the level, and he's come to a point where he's just going out. Kol so nafshi, he's losing all connection between the soul and his normal bodily life. Is a very, very elevated, it would seem, a very elevated madrega, and it's based on the Aish, the fire. Fire is a very powerful. If you have it under control, then it's good fire. But if it gets a little bit out of control, then it's consuming, and that's what seemed to be happened to this person. He seems to have reached a level, and therefore there's a Ebenezer on the first of these three psukim that he brings, which are all in Tehillim, by the way. All the three psukim that he mentions here, it's Tomalacho and Nafshi and other, they're all from Tehillim. And on the first one, Kolsa, Nixa for Gam Kolsa, I'm longing and I'm also expiring. The Ebenezer says that Nixa for, to long for, is the concept of taiva. What taiva means, a longing and a burning desire for something. Kolsa is where you've already gone over the line. That's what the Ebenezer is that when you've gone beyond the normal limits of taiva, or even taivas, yearning and lusting for something have limitations by immense. When you've gone over that limitation, you've gone into the level of too far, then it's called kolsa. Not too far, but you've gone beyond the normal level, then it's called kolsa. Which would imply that the Alter Rebbe is talking here that the first type of Ava you have is a Ava which is beyond normal. It's beyond the normal limitation of feeling of desire for something. You've already gone into a state of expiry, which according to the Ebenezer is over the line. If that's the case, why would the Alter Rebbe sort of introduce us to this type of love? When we're just learning about the midas, it's written in Siddur and other places. A more what you might call Bhagabatisha type of love, a more controllable, more what you might call normal type of love. This type of love is very, very powerful and burning, and it's based purely on the Yesod Ha'esh, and the person could literally go out. I'm running out of time a little bit here, but anyway, the thing is that you all know the famous story. You know the famous story that happened. With the son of the Maggid, with the Rebbe Avraham Malach. You don't know? And the Alter Rebbe, there was a famous story.
She'd whip those horses?
Where they went out to, they used to go together to what they called the Hizbodah Shtibul. They had a little house where they went to be on their own all together, and this was called the Hizbodah Shtibul. And it was in the forest, somewhere way out of nowhere in the forest, and they used to go out there and think about the greatness of Hashem and get into high levels of appreciation of Hashem. So one day they went out, and one of them suggested, or at least it was agreed amongst the two of them, they would draw a circle. This is the story you're referring to? Drawing a circle, and they're going to step inside the circle, and they're going to go up to Klois HaNefesh. They're going to reach this union here, which the Alter Rebbe called Klois HaNefesh, expiry of the soul, and whoever will step out of the circle And that's the sign he's coming back down. He's lost the expire and he's coming back down, what you might call, in inverted commas, normal. That's what they agreed on. So the Alter Rebbe and the Avraham Malach, they step into the circle and they start going up. All of a sudden the Alter Rebbe looks at the Rebbe Avraham Malach and he sees that by him it's really happening. It's not. This is not a joke. He's really going into Klois HaNefesh, and he's going to have Klois HaNefesh. He's going to have the expiring of the soul, and he's not going to be able to make it back. So the Alter Rebbe immediately, when he saw that, the Alter Rebbe was also having a tremendous Klois HaNefesh, but the Alter Rebbe was always in control. So he saw. So the Alter Rebbe jumped out of the circle. And he saw that the Avraham Malach was going further and further upward, so he shouted into his ear, and he said, we're not asking you, but it's written in the Mishnah, Ba'al kochach atochai. You have to be alive, even if you don't want it. Ba'al kochach means you are compelled to be alive. In the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, you have to be alive, and you're compelled. In other words, it's not your business, but Hashem says you have to. Ba'al kochach atochai. So all of a sudden he noticed that he sort of shouted and everything, and he began to sort of chop him, and then the Alter Rebbe repeated it to him a couple of times, and gradually the Alter Rebbe brought him back down. Gradually he brought him back down, and then ultimately he was able to bring him outside the circle. He came back down into the body. So then the Alter Rebbe said, let's go back to his body, the shtibel, and rest up. This has been a tremendous experience. So let's go back to the shtibel. And so they get back to his body, the shtibel, and the Alter Rebbe goes over to the icebox or whatever they had, and he took out a bit of butter. And butter in those days was considered like a delicatessen, how do you call it, a high level of spitz type of eating. And he took out a bagel. A bagel was also considered a bit of a Taivas type of Michael. People who were sort of into eating went for a bagel in those days. Well, just a piece of bread. It was a bagel. The Alter Rebbe took this bagel and this butter. He went over, washed his hands, and made a moitze, and he started eating the bagel with putter. And it was at the Rebbe Avraham Malach's eyes were just jolting out, and he couldn't understand it. He said, what are you doing? He said, we were just holding by such madrega. He said, we might never come back here, We were holding by Klois HaNefesh. And you can sit down and eat a bagel, in this world, in the Olam HaGashmi, you sit down and eat bagel. So the Alter Rebbe said, oh, that's what I want to teach you. That's what I want to teach you. You've got to be able to hold on both levels. You've got to be able to hold by Klois HaNefesh, but you've got to be down here. You've got to both. You've got to both Klois HaNefesh and down here. So the Rebbe Avraham Malach was tremendously impressed. He learned tremendously. You never heard the master, you guys. Very nice one. And that's the union from Klois. That's the union from Klois HaNefesh. So all of a sudden the Alter Rebbe says, when you, just little old you, your big misboinen, and the greatness of Hashem, that's what you're supposed to be doing. And all of a sudden you get this Yiras HaReimamis. That's the first thing. And then you get then you get a bit of pachad in the heart. That seems to make sense. Pachad, he's worried about himself a bit. And then the next thing, azu kurish peish, with the fire, with the embers of the fire, with everything, Klois HaNefesh, and Yesodo Eish. This is the fire of the heart, and never shall a keys. What are we talking about here? So it appears to me that we can say that just like this, and also particularly that if we look early in the parak when we said what are the midas, first we said Avos Hashem, and then we said Upaktoi v'yiroseh. We said it the other way around. We said first of all Avos Hashem, then Pachad, and then Yira. Here he starts off with the Yira, then a little bit of Pachad, and then Ava comes later. So what's going on around here? Pachad? Pachad means Shrek. It means how do you call it? Fear for the soul, like me, feeling a deep fear, like in the simple sense. Yira we touched was awe. Awe means like, and that's for moichai. So you have Yiras Hashem b'moichai. It's almost like a contradiction, because moich is brain. Midah and Yira are a midah. They're an emotional tray. How do they fit into where does it fit into the brain? So, it seems to me that we could say like this, and even though we don't have a great deal of time left, but we'll make a start, and then maybe we'll tantalize you guys again and leave you with a question before we complete the as we complete the class. And we say like this: when we mentioned the beginning of the Perek, Avos Hashem, Pakti, we're talking about the Midas, and first of all you start off with Chesed, and then you go to Gvura, Avos Hashem. We're talking about what the Midas are in the heart after they've already been revealed, and after you're supposed to have already Midas of Hashem. These are the Midas. First Ava, then Pakti, then Nira. Yeah. Here we're talking about the way it's working by the mensch, who is being misboinen in his mind, in the greatness of Hashem, and he's trying to produce, from his moichin and his brain, he's trying to produce midah. So that's what the brain does. It produces the midah, as we saw. Therefore, how are you, a gashmistika mensch, and could be you have a little bit to do with the chumriyas of the world also, not just the physicality, but the materiality of the world. How are you going to get to Avos Hashem, or even pachad, to feel pachad of the neighbors? Pachad of the neighbors. You feel pachad in the fact that maybe you're missing a few grosh, You feel pachad with what's going to be. The radio says that the world's going mad, and it's right. So it is. So he feels pachad. He's afraid of some disease or who knows what vice versa. How are you, a man who lives, how are you going to get into Elikus? You're going to feel love and fear for Hashem, divine love and a divine fear, and really be devoted to Hashem with commitment of Yira, of Ava. How's that going to happen? In other words, it's like two forms of yesh. A yesh, the world, and a yesh, how it is mitzad the emes of Elikus, the genuineness of the Eibusha. So it's put down and considered from one yesh to another yesh, you have to have a ayin be'emti. You're going to have like a negating point in the middle. In other words, if you want to go from one yesh to another, then you've got to lose the whole first yesh, and then there's a possibility you might be able to come to another yesh. Because the concept of yesh means the whole being is that way. You feel yourself very much. They want to feel Hashem and feel that Hashem is the real yesh. Yeah? That they go from that yesh to that yesh, there's got to be a cancel out in the middle. There's got to be a no man's land, absolute vacuum in the middle. And that's what's called an ayin b'emtze. What is that vacuum and what does that not be? So you start thinking about with your moyach, you start being misboinen in the greatness of Hashem. And you appreciate the three levels of mamali, seiva, kula kamei kaloi, chachiva. So what happens is that your brain begins to realize just how nothing you really are. In other words, you sense and you become very aware that everything your whole life up to now has been like a big mistake. Everything you've been doing and everything you've been considering that was worthwhile feeling and worthwhile going for and everything, it all becomes, as it were, lost. And your mind begins to appreciate the greatness of Hashem. So it's like your mind says to its own self, what have you been doing? Where have you been? What have you been up to? Forget it. Throw it all away. You become, as it were, out. You become like bottled. You lose your whole Matthias, and then you begin turning into another Matthias. You turn into a new entity where you appreciate Elikus, and that makes sense. Well, that's what's called Yiras Hashem. Yira, or means bitul. Emes of bitul. So our kasha was, that's a very high madriga. How come the Alter Rebbe starts over that? The Indian is that we should suggest that what the Alter Rebbe is telling us, that even though Yiras Hashem Lizboishes, like he says, and all that, is in madrigas of the actual midas themselves. It's a very high madriga, it's probably the highest of all madrigas. Nonetheless, when you begin, first of all, being misbeinen, and you want to go over from your state of commitment to Gashmis and Chumriyas into the world of midas of Hashem, where your midas are mitzad the divine, you have to lose yourself altogether in the middle, and you do. And when you get into that, it's bonanus. The moyach sort of tells you, oh, it's another story altogether. This whole world is a bottle of tea. Forget it, it's not really there. It's only the greatness of the Abisha. Remember, you become full with awe. And that awe causes you to lose everything you had before. Complete, as it were, bittul. It's like you become like the iron band to the nothing in the middle. And then then you feel a bit ashamed about yourself, where you've been all these years, or months, or years, or whatever it is, and you've been doing, and all of a sudden you sense a shame of normal human existence, like having the realness of Hashem, and you feel a certain sort of, it's all not the right thing. How could I possibly? And so it's more considered a dogma. It's well known, the famous Gemara. There's a Gemara about it that you're supposed to have. I can't go into all the things. I don't want to hold you up too long now. That you should have a yira for Talmudei Chachomim, like you have yira for Hashem. You should fear great rabbinic figures. So one of the things in that is that when you come in front of a great person, you sort of feel ashamed of yourself. You feel the fear that falls upon you is not just a fear, but it's like a sense of your own worthlessness, like every other person. And the only way I can describe it to you that I experienced that was when you're waiting outside the door to go into Yechidas to the Rebbe. And your turn's come out, you see, there's only 1 or 2 people between you, you just lose your whole soul. And you feel so ashamed, how am I going to stand in front of the Rebbe? How can I possibly do this? But nonetheless, something makes you do it. Right? And that's called Yiraboishes. That's what he calls Lizboishes. Remember, he doesn't give it its full name, Yirei Boishes. The proper name for this, as a real midah, somebody who's been a great Oved Hashem, it's called Yirei Boishes. He just says that he comes to a state where he is Lira Uli his Boishes. He works on the Vusha works back into him in a reflexive way, that he feels just so completely nothing. Yabe Hashem in a sense of shame, that everything he's been in and been involved in up to now is all just pointless. Why? Because he has sensed the unbelievable, and that midah is like a form of emotional reaction inside the brain. It's like the brain is teaching you something which is very similar to what a midah is in the heart. But because it's not really the work of the brain. The work of the brain is to understand. And here the brain is almost like prompting you to feel something inside your brain. And that's what we call yiras harimamas. And therefore, it's a very high level, but it occurs to everybody at the beginning when he begins to go through from his state of where he is into the whole union of thinking about the greatness of Hashem. First and foremost, you have this sense of the unbelievable greatness of Hashem, and it hits you that you do appreciate what does it mean, unlimited greatness of Hashem. Oh, if you lose everything and you become completely absorbed in awe, not fear and pachad, but awe of the Eibishter, and that's yiras harimamas. That is mitzad his elevation, not anything else. Not that he's going to punish you or he's going to do things. And you feel this busha, not because you're scared. You're just you're full of awe that you just automatically feel, who am I? Where have I ever been? I'm just nothing. That's what happens if you think and you put effort into the thing and you get into the greatness of Hashem. Well, that's what happened. And therefore, the Alter Rebbe says first, Yira, even though Yira really belongs after Ava. But therefore he puts it first, because that's what happened. The first thing you have, if you're a genuine misboinen, according to Tanya, is Yiras Harimas, a very, very elevated level, and it's within the moyach. It's not And it's a very rare situation, the combination of emotion and moya together almost. It's like a prompting of the moya to feel something. And what do you feel first off? Well, how can I possibly be? How can I have lived the way I've lived? Now, you know, absolute bullshit. Oh, now you're on the now you can. After that, you can feel pachad in the heart. Why not then? Then you can feel also in your heart genuine shrek and dread for Hashem. Then after that, then you get moving with ahava. And says the Alter Rebbe, if his bonus has been genuine, and you've undergone those two in Yonim, you've first of all undergone the negation of your whole self, and you've lost your whole self, and you are no longer in the picture with all your mishugasim, and even what you think of your holy mishugasim, and everything, and oh you, oh I'm me. You are no longer there. You've been lost as well, and you've even felt shrek in your heart for Hashem. Oh, now what happens is now you can have genuine ahava also. Then you can go back to being a yesh, as it were. Because when you love, you're coming back into the field. I love, I want to. Then you're moving back into the field. Ooh, then it turns in fire. Then it starts a bonfire or a bushfire right inside you, and then you get tremendously enthused and awakened to the point that you can have, like the Avraham Amalek, you can even have a place on it. But of course, you stop. Nobody's going to quite let you get that far. Praise Hashem. So have a good evening, enjoy your supper, and don't have closer nefesh about the supper. Yeah.